The floorboards groaned a symphony of dying wood beneath me, each creak a prelude to the whisper William knew was coming. It started as a faint rustle, barely a breath in the vast, cold silence of the manor, then solidified into a distinct, agonizingly familiar sound. Sarah's laugh, light and free, echoing from the top of the grand, dust-shrouded staircase. My heart hammered, a frantic drum against my ribs, because Sarah was gone, buried 3 months ago, and there was no one else in this desolate place for miles. It wasn't a memory. It was there, a presence that felt like a needle sliding into the fresh wound of my grief. It had been 3 months since Sarah died. I was drowning, swallowed whole by an ocean of sorrow, when the lawyer's letter arrived. My estranged grandmother, Elara, had passed, leaving me her entire estate. A remote Victorian manor, miles from civilization, deep in the sprawling forests of the Blackwood Peaks. It felt like a sign, a desperate lifeline thrown to a man going under. A chance to escape, to breathe, to simply be without the crushing weight of Sarah's absence. I packed a single bag, left everything else behind, and drove until the paved roads turned to gravel, then to little more than a muddy track. The house loomed against the bruised sky, a skeletal silhouette of turrets and gables draped in ivy like a shroud. The air inside was heavy with dust and the scent of decay, a bitter perfume that clung to my clothes and hair. William told myself it was just the ancient house settling, the drafts of time, but the hair on my arms prickled with an unwelcome certainty that it was something more. My first few days were a blur of unpacking and attempting to make the manor habitable. The electricity flickered more often than it held steady. The plumbing gurgled with a life of its own, and the vast rooms swallowed light whole. William found myself drawn to the forgotten corners, the places time had overlooked. In the library, shelves buckled under the weight of leather-bound tomes, their pages brittle with age. Behind a forgotten tapestry, William discovered a small, larked mahogany chest, intricately carved with symbols William didn't recognize, swirling lines that seemed to writhe and intertwine. What secrets did it hold, tucked away like a forgotten treasure? Not Sarah's voice this time, not yet, just indistinct murmurs, like a hushed conversation in the next room, just beyond the threshold of understanding. William'd freeze, straining to hear, but the sounds would dissolve into the background hum of the house, leaving me wondering if William'd imagined them. There was the isolation getting to me already. My grief was a gaping wound, after all, and William knew how it could twist the mind. Yet, the feeling of being watched, of not being alone, persisted. William tried to rationalize it all. The flickering lights, faulty wiring in an ancient house, drafts, the wind, or the creaks and groans of settling timbers playing tricks on my ears. William even called an old colleague, Mark, hoping to ground myself in reality. "William, you sound like you're losing it," he'd chuckled, his voice tinny and distant over the crackling line. "It's a big, old house, man. Probably just needs a good exorcism, or maybe a new fuse box." His easy dismissal, however, only amplified my growing unease. Then came the dreams, vivid, terrifying replays of Sarah's accident, but distorted. One morning I found a single, withered rose petal on my pillow, a type Sarah had loved. I'd never brought any flowers into the house. It was a cruel, specific detail, too personal to be coincidence, too impossible to be real. "Who are you?" I whispered into the oppressive silence of my bedroom, the question hanging heavy in the air. "What do you want?" The manifestations grew bolder. One afternoon, while I was trying to read in the library, a porcelain doll that had been sitting on a high shelf, its vacant eyes staring into nothing, suddenly toppled and shattered at my feet. The sound echoed like a gunshot, and when I looked up, the empty space where it had been seemed to shimmer, as if heat haze had rippled through the air. Another time, the faint scent of Sarah's perfume, a delicate jasmine, filled the kitchen, so strong it made my stomach lurch. My hands trembled as I gripped the counter, the smell fading as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind only the metallic tang of fear. I found myself talking to Sarah out loud, pleading with her memory to leave me in peace. "You're not here," I'd whisper, pacing the long, dark hallways. "This isn't real, it's just my grief." But a part of me, a small, terrified part, knew it was far beyond the machinations of a broken mind. One evening, I was in the study, trying to distract myself with a book, when I heard it again. Sarah's voice. It was a plea. "William, help me." It came from directly behind me, so clear, so real. William felt his breath on my neck. William froze, every muscle screaming in protest, too terrified to turn around. My heart threatened to burst from my chest. When the lamp flickered back on, William spun around, my breath ragged, sweat stinging my eyes. Nothing. Just the empty room, the dust motes dancing in the dim light. But on the worn leather armchair, where William had felt the pressure, lay a single, tarnished silver locket. It was Sarah's, a gift William had given him years ago, engraved with our initials. William had meticulously packed it away with him, other precious keepsakes, locked in a safe deposit box at the bank. How could it possibly be here? My hands shook so violently, William almost dropped it. This wasn't grief. This wasn't my mind breaking. This was something else, something that knew me, that knew Sarah, and was using her memory to tear me apart. Desperate, William remembered the locked chest William found in the library. I retrieved a crowbar from the shed, my hands clumsy with adrenaline. The lock splintered with a sharp crack, revealing not gold or jewels, but a collection of yellowed papers and a leather-bound journal, my grandmother's. Her elegant, spidery handwriting filled the pages, growing increasingly frantic with each entry, louder this time. They speak of hunger, of echoes. I hear my mother's voice, my father's, urging me to listen. They are trying to show me something. November 5th, 1968. It's not just the house, it's the woods. The old amusement park down by the river. It calls to them. It calls to us. The pact. It demands. What did my grandmother mean by the pact? And what did it demand? The journal entries became more fragmented, almost incoherent. Her final entry, dated only a week before her official date of death, was smeared with what looked like dried blood. Asterisk December 1st, 1968. It's here. It wants me. It wants my memories. It wants to sing through me, the others. They couldn't stop it. They became part of the chorus. William, if I ever find this, run. Don't listen to their voices. Don't become an echo. Asterisk, my breath hitched. William, she knew I would find it. He was warning me. This wasn't just a haunting, it was a legacy, a family curse. That night, the house truly came alive. They spoke my name, taunted me with fragments of conversations William had with Sarah, twisted him words into venomous barbs. William huddled in my bed, pulling the covers over my head. But the sounds seeped through, invading my mind. The air in my room turned frigid, then searing hot, then back again, an impassable fluctuation. William heard footsteps outside my door, heavy, deliberate steps that paused, then scraped, as if something impassably heavy was being dragged across the floor. A low, guttural growl vibrated through the wood, a sound that resonated deep in my bones. William squeezed my eyes shut, praying it would go away, that William would wake up from this nightmare. But the growl intensified, becoming a distorted, agonizingly familiar moan. It was Sarah's moan, from her final moments, stretched and twisted into something demonic. Then the doorknob slowly turned. William scrambled out of bed, grabbing a heavy iron poker from beside the fireplace, my hands slick with sweat. The door creaked open an inch, then two, revealing only inky blackness beyond. It was Sarah's voice, but not. It was deeper, guttural, layered with countless others, like 1,000 voices speaking in unison through her throat. Why do you resist? She misses you. It was Sarah, or a mockery of her. Her hair, once a vibrant auburn, was now a tangled, decaying mess. He reached out a skeletal hand, him fingers long and unnatural, dripping with what looked like black tar. Come to me, William. The chorale of echoes hissed through his mouth, its voice echoing in the room, vibrating in my teeth. Join the song. Let my grief feed us. Let my memories become ours. I stumbled backward, tripping over a rug, landing hard on the floor. The poker clattered uselessly beside me. The spectral Sarah glided closer, her form flickering, revealing glimpses of other faces, other figures beneath her translucent skin. My grandmother, a stern-faced man in an old photograph I'd seen, a young girl with braids. They were all there, trapped within the entity, their faces a silent scream. I am ours, William. The entity rasped, its voice filling every corner of the room, every crevice of my mind. As they were, as he is. It lunged, its skeletal hand reaching for my face, and I felt a wave of crushing despair, a suffocating grief that was not entirely my own. It was a chorus of sorrow, a symphony of all the memories it had devoured, threatening to consume me whole. The entity recoiled slightly, as if my defiance had surprised it, its form rippling. "No," I choked out, tears streaming down my face. "I won't have me, I won't have Sarah." The entity paused, its empty eyes seeming to bore into my very soul. I was left gasping for breath, clutching my chest, my mind reeling. It was real, all of it, and it wasn't just haunting the house, it was hunting me. Driven by a desperation that bordered on madness, William spent the next days in a frenzy of research. The internet was useless, but the dusty archives of the local historical society, a small, forgotten building in the nearest town, held tantalizing clues. The librarian, a stern, bespectacled woman who seemed to view my frantic inquiries with suspicion, pointed me towards old town records and local legends. William found newspaper clippings detailing strange disappearances in the Blackwood Peaks, dating back generations. Mines, mostly. Some say it's the old amusement park, too. Built on strange ground. Never prospered, that place. People always felt ill there or heard things. The derelict amusement park, my grandmother's journal, my article, it all converged. William needed to go there. William needed to find out what strange ground meant, what secrets that forgotten place held. It was a long drive, deeper into the forest, the road becoming little more than a muddy track again. A Ferris wheel stood sentinel against the bleak sky, its empty carriages swaying mournfully in the wind, groaning like tormented souls. William wandered through the decaying grounds, my camera forgotten in my hand, documenting not for an article, but for my life. The air here was heavy, charged with a palpable sense of sorrow and abandonment. In the ruins of what looked like a funhouse, the mirrors were shattered, reflecting distorted fragments of the decaying walls, of my own terrified face. Beneath a collapsed roller coaster, half buried in nettles and brambles, William found it, a small, weathered stone marker, almost entirely consumed by moss. It wasn't a gravestone. Etched into its surface, barely legible, were the same swirling, intertwining symbols I'd seen on my grandmother's lark chest, and beneath them a single word, pact. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. This was the nexus my grandmother spoke of. This was where the chorale of echoes held its sway, where the pact was made. They were no longer just sounds. They were thoughts, memories, images flashing through my mind, a child crying, a woman screaming, a man begging. Not my memories, but theirs, the devoured. They were showing me what awaited me. Suddenly, a voice, clear as a bell, cut through the cacophony, Sarah's voice. "William, don't look away." William spun around, my breath catching. Standing amongst the rusted ruins of the Ferris wheel, silhouetted against the grey sky, was Sarah. Real Sarah. Her face was soft, her eyes full of love, a gentle smile playing on her lips. "We can be together again, forever." My heart ached with a longing so profound it nearly brought me to my knees. To see her again, to touch her, to escape this nightmare. It was everything William wanted. My hand instinctively reached out. Her eyes. Though beautiful, they were too still, too perfect. There was a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer around her, like heat rising from asphalt. This wasn't Sarah. This was the chorale of echoes, wearing her,